The galaxy was wide, endless, and full of civilizations that had risen and fallen long before Earth even learned how to use fire. The Galactic Empire believed it had seen everything. They thought they understood every kind of species, every kind of rebellion, every kind of weakness. But one mistake changed everything. They touched Earth's children. It started quietly, like a shadow crossing the sky. In the middle of a bright summer afternoon, over a small town, a ship appeared. It was not a glowing miracle, not a sign. From the heavens, it was cold, sharp, and full of hunger. The Empire did not ask permission. They did not warn. They took, one by one, children disappeared. Some from their homes, others from playgrounds, others from schools. The humans searched, screamed, begged, but there were no answers. Only silence, only absence. Parents felt their hearts tear apart. Mothers held empty cradles. Fathers broke down doors, searching for footprints that were never there. Grandparents lit candles, praying the old prayers of Earth, hoping someone somewhere listened. The Empire had taken children before, from other planets, other worlds. It was nothing new to them. In their eyes, children were resources, tools to be trained, weapons for the future. They never thought about the parents left behind. They never imagined the fury of Earth. At first, governments were slow, confused, paralyzed. Leaders gave speeches on TV, calling for calm, for patience, for understanding. But the parents did not want calm. They wanted their children back. And in this fire of grief, something began to awaken. In one neighborhood, a mother named Alina stood in front of her broken home. Her daughter Maria had been taken from her bed while she slept. Lena swore she heard the faint sound of wings, though no bird flew that night. She screamed to the sky, not knowing who listened. Bring her back. In another part of the world, a father named Marcus tore apart his garage, searching for tools, parts, anything that could become a weapon. His son had been stolen from the playground. Marcus's hands shook with rage, but his eyes were steady. If they think they can take him, he whispered, then they will learn what Earth's parents are. In the cities, in the villages, in the deserts and forests, the same story repeated. Children gone, parents broken, and then parents rising. The Empire had expected fear. They had expected surrender. But what they received was something else, something older than history, something written in the blood of every mother, every father, every human who had ever protected a child from danger. It began with whispers. Groups of parents meeting in the night, stories shared across continents. They took my daughter, they took my son, they took my brother. And with each voice, the grief turned sharper, harder. Grief became anger. Anger became fire. The world's armies moved slowly, but the parents did not wait. Farmers used their tools. Engineers built machines. Hackers reached into the stars with their code, trying to find signals of the ships. Scientists left their laboratories to work in basements with desperate fathers and mothers, piecing together scraps of alien technology left behind in the abduction. For 5 long nights, Earth seemed silent. The Empire thought they had succeeded. The children were locked in cages of light, high above the Earth, in a ship that stretched for miles. The aliens looked at them like specimens. They told themselves it was mercy, that the children would learn, that they would grow stronger under the Empire's hand. But then, on the 6th night, something happened. From the sky, signals burst. Not from governments, not from armies, but from parents. Messages hacked into the stars. Warnings carved into the Empire's frequencies. The aliens listened, confused, then disturbed, as one phrase repeated across every channel you took. Our children. You will face the parents of Earth. The words came in every language, but the meaning was the same. The children in the cages heard it too. Their small hearts lifted. They knew their parents had not forgotten them. They knew the fight had only begun. The Empire laughed. To them, humans were weak, divided, primitive. They believed that parents were powerless against the might of a galactic fleet. But they had not studied Earth's history deeply enough. They had not seen the wars fought over families, the revolutions sparked by injustice, the endless survival against famine, fire, plague, and every extinction. The mistake was already made, because when humans fight for themselves, they can be strong. But when they fight for their children, there is nothing stronger in the galaxy. And now, as the Empire celebrated their capture, as they prepared to train the stolen children, the parents of Earth were already moving. Quietly, determined, united, the galaxy was about to learn something it had forgotten. Humans are not the strongest because of their weapons, not because of their technology, not even because of their intelligence. They are strongest because they never stop fighting for the ones they love. And for the first time in its long history, the Galactic Empire was about to feel fear. The Galactic Empire thought Earth would break after the children were taken. They believed fear would silence every parent. But what they did not understand was that parents on Earth were not silent creatures. They were protectors, guardians born from centuries of struggle, hardship, and survival. Every parent, whether a farmer, a teacher, or a soldier, carried inside them a fire that no empire could ever put out. And when that fire was lit, it burned brighter than any star in the galaxy. News spread quickly. Screens in cities and small towns showed the faces of children being pulled into alien ships. Mothers cried. Fathers clenched their fists. Brothers and sisters shouted in anger. The Empire's message was clear: submit or lose more. But instead of surrender, Earth's people grew restless. The grief was turning into rage, and the rage was shaping itself into resolve in a small mountain town. A mother named Alina stood at the center of a crowd. Her daughter, only 7 years old, had been taken. She was not a soldier, not a fighter, but her voice carried strength. "They think we are weak," she said, trembling yet powerful. "But every parent here knows we do not stop when our children are in danger. We do not stop until they are safe again." The crowd erupted in agreement. It was no longer just about survival. It was about love, about protecting the bond that tied every family together. Meanwhile, far above Earth, in the massive starships of the Empire, alien commanders discussed the strange reaction. Humans grieved too loudly, one officer said. Confused, other worlds bow in silence. Why do these creatures rise instead of bend? The commander replied coldly, "It does not matter. They have no fleets. They have no weapons that can reach us. Their fire will die soon." But deep in his voice, there was doubt. Back on Earth, parents were not waiting. They began gathering in secret. Farmers donated fuel, engineers built machines, and hackers broke into Empire transmissions. War veterans taught civilians how to fight. Neighbors who had barely spoken before now shared food, shelter, and plans. Humanity was uniting in a way it had not done for centuries, in one hidden base. General Marcus, a retired soldier, looked across a room full of desperate parents. He spoke in simple words, but they cut through the silence. "They took our children. That means they gave us no choice. This is not a war for land, or power, or money. This is a war for family. And when you fight for family, you fight with everything you are." Every parent in that room stood taller. Fear was still in their hearts, but love was stronger. As the days passed, strange things began happening to the Empire's patrols. Alien drones would vanish in forests. Supply lines were cut. Messages were intercepted. It was as if Earth itself had become a hunter. The aliens, used to crushing fear instantly, started sensing something they had never faced before: resistance born not from orders, but from love. One night Elena, the grieving mother, stood on a hilltop, looking at the stars. Somewhere out there, her daughter was trapped among strangers. She whispered to the sky, "Hold on, my child, we are coming. Every parent on this earth is coming." Far away, in the darkness of space, the children of Earth huddled together inside their prison ship. They were afraid, but they remembered their parents' faces. Some began to whisper stories of human courage, of how their people survived floods, storms, and wars. A young boy spoke softly, "They will come for us. Our parents always come." The others nodded, holding on to that fragile hope. The Empire did not realize it yet, but the countdown had already begun. Humanity was moving, slowly, carefully, but with unstoppable determination. The parents of Earth were not just planning, they were preparing for a storm. And when it came, it would shake the stars. The Galactic Empire had believed that fear would be enough. They thought the humans would bow, that grief would weaken them. But in every corner of Earth, something different was happening. Fathers who once worked quietly in factories clenched their fists as they heard the news. Mothers who had never held a weapon now spoke with steel in their voices. Communities came together, not in silence, but in a storm of determination. The Galactic Empire had taken their children, but in doing so, they had touched something they did not understand: the fierce bond of human family. High above Earth, in the cold corridors of the Imperial transport ships, the children were kept in large holding chambers. They were frightened at first, staring at the massive alien guards with glowing eyes and strange weapons. But even among the youngest, there was something unshaken. A small boy whispered to his sister, "Mom will find us." Others echoed the same belief. They knew their parents, and they knew humans never gave up when it came to protecting their own. The guards laughed at the strange confidence of these little ones, calling them soft animals. But deep down, the children held on to something the Empire could never steal: hope. Back on Earth, the first meetings began in hidden rooms and abandoned warehouses. Parents gathered, whispering plans, trading skills, and sharing knowledge. One man, a former soldier, laid out maps. A mother who had been an engineer showed them how to build devices to disrupt alien technology. Even grandparents stood ready, telling stories of old wars and the survival of humanity through plagues, famines, and disasters. The Galactic Empire had expected humans to scatter like prey. Instead, they were organizing like predators. Meanwhile, the Empire's high command discussed the situation. "The humans are restless," one officer said with disdain. "They gather in secret. They shout in their streets. They cling to their emotions. It will burn out soon." Another alien, older and wiser, shook his head. "You misunderstand. This species thrives on desperation. Every time the universe tried to erase them, they came back stronger. Perhaps we should have chosen another world." The room fell into silence. None of them wanted to admit it, but a strange unease was creeping into their thoughts. In the cities of Earth, small acts of defiance grew larger. Parents hacked alien broadcasts to send messages to their children. "We are coming for you." Others planted symbols of resistance on walls and rooftops, simple drawings of a child holding a parent's hand. These images spread quickly, reminding everyone what was at stake. Even people without children joined the fight because they knew the truth. If the Empire could take children, they could take anyone. Humanity was united as it had not been for centuries. The children aboard the ships began to notice strange things. The guards grew restless. Some of the aliens looked over their shoulders more often, as if afraid. The children whispered to each other, spreading courage instead of fear. One girl, no older than 12, told the others, "Our parents are coming. I know it, and when they come, nothing in this galaxy can stop them." Her voice carried through the chamber, and the fear that once filled the room was replaced by quiet determination. The aliens, hearing this, sneered. Yet unease spread among them as well. Then came the first strike. In the dead of night, far from the main cities, a group of parents ambushed a small patrol. Using makeshift weapons and clever traps, they destroyed the unit and captured alien equipment. Word spread like fire. The people of Earth cheered in secret, whispering to each other, "It has begun." The Galactic Empire had expected resistance, but not this quickly, not this fiercely. They had underestimated the power of love mixed with fury in orbit. The commanders watched the reports with growing frustration. They fight with sticks and fire. One officer mocked, but another corrected him. No, they fight with something far more dangerous. They fight with purpose. And purpose cannot be extinguished so easily. The commander dismissed the warning, but the truth was clear. Humanity was no longer just grieving. They were hunting. The children on the ships began to sense it too. They could almost feel the vibrations of a storm building below. They whispered about it at night, imagining their parents breaking through the stars. The guards tried to silence them, but the children's confidence was contagious, and even the youngest began to smile again. The Galactic Empire thought they had stolen Earth's future by taking its children. But what they had really done was awaken the past, the ancient, unstoppable will of a species that had survived against impossible odds. Humanity was not broken. Humanity was sharpening its claws, and soon the galaxy would learn what it meant. To take a child from Earth, the halls of the Galactic Empire station trembled under the sounds of marching boots. The parents of Earth had arrived in force. They were not soldiers in the traditional sense, but something far more dangerous. They were mothers whose children had been stolen, fathers whose hearts had been ripped apart. Their grief burned into rage, and that rage gave them a strength the Empire could not measure. No blaster, no armor. No Empire-trained warrior could compare to the fury of a parent whose child was in danger. The first wave of guards met them in the steel corridors. They raised their energy rifles, confident that this fight would end quickly. But the parents moved as one. They were farmers, miners, doctors, and builders. Yet in that moment, they were unstoppable. A mother swung a wrench so hard it dented a soldier's helmet. A father ripped a rifle from a guard's hands and smashed it against the wall. They were not fighting for territory or pride. They were fighting for blood, for family. The alien commander watching the battle frowned. His readings showed that humans had low military ranking across the galaxy, considered weak and primitive compared to the Empire's power. But here, in these narrow halls, statistics meant nothing. Humans were breaking the rules of war, fighting with desperation and love instead of discipline. The commander whispered to himself, "How can numbers measure this?" Meanwhile, deep inside the station, the children huddled in fear. They heard the clash of battle growing closer. Some cried, some held each other, but one small boy whispered, "My mom is coming." His voice carried a strange certainty, as if he could feel her footsteps shaking the walls. Back in the corridors, the battle reached its peak. The aliens unleashed drones with spinning blades designed to cut down rebels, but the humans adapted quickly. A mechanic father used an old trick, throwing sand from his pocket sand he had carried from Earth as a memory into the sensors of the machines. The drones spun out of control, crashing into the walls. Another mother used fire from a broken pipe to drive the machines back. The Empire soldiers stared in disbelief. The humans kept moving forward, their eyes fixed only on the doors ahead. Behind those doors were their children, and nothing else mattered. Fear that would cripple other species only sharpened their resolve. Pain that should slow them down made them faster. Every scream of their kids in their memory fueled them with more power. The alien commander finally realized the mistake. Had thought humanity weak because they had no empire, no fleets, no vast armies. But humanity's strength was never in numbers or weapons. It was in their hearts, in their ability to survive the impossible for the ones they loved. The commander's stomach turned with unease. This was not just a rescue mission. This was the awakening of a force the galaxy had underestimated. The parents reached the reinforced door where the children were kept. Blaster fire rained down from all sides, but they stood shoulder to shoulder, protecting each other. A wounded father leaned against the wall, refusing to fall until the door was open. A mother, bleeding from her arm, smiled through her pain, because she could hear faint voices of children beyond the steel. They pounded on the door with weapons, fists, anything they could find. The children inside heard it. Hope rushed through them like a storm. They screamed, "Mom! Dad!" Their tiny fists pounded back on the door. That sound gave the parents new strength. With one last push, with all their fury and love, they broke the door wide open. When the children saw their parents, they ran forward, tears streaming, hearts bursting. The parents dropped their weapons and scooped them up, holding them tightly. For a moment, the galaxy stood still. That reunion, raw, emotional, unbreakable, was more powerful than any Empire fleet. But the moment was not safe yet. Sirens blared. Reinforcements were coming. The parents knew this was only the beginning. They had their children back, but now they had to survive the Empire's wrath. And the Empire had just learned something terrifying. Humanity would burn. The stars themselves before surrendering their young. The Galactic Empire thought the battle for Earth's children was already over. Their ships still hovered above the planet. Their soldiers still marched in lines of steel and order. But deep below, in hidden bunkers and forgotten tunnels, the parents of Earth were no longer just grieving. They were preparing. What began as quiet whispers of resistance had grown into a storm of resolve. Every mother, every father, every guardian who had lost a child now carried only one thought in their hearts. They would bring them back, no matter the cost. General Hayes stood in the middle of the underground base, his hands resting on a rough table covered with maps and stolen Imperial charts. Around him, people who had once been farmers, teachers, engineers, and doctors now carried weapons. They were not trained soldiers, but their eyes were fierce. "The Empire believes they have broken us," Hayes said, his voice steady. "But they don't understand what it means to be a parent. They don't know what it means to fight for your child. That is their mistake." At his side stood Dr. Alara, who had once been a quiet scientist. Now her inventions were reshaping the war. She had managed to hack into the Empire's technology, turning their drones against them. She pointed to the projection of an alien. "Warship. This is where they keep the children. They are not gone. They are alive. The Empire studies them, but they have not harmed them yet." Her voice shook slightly on the last word. The room fell silent. A mother in the crowd clenched her fists. A father wiped a tear from his cheek, but said nothing. The silence was filled with something stronger than Furit was filled with determination. Meanwhile, high above Earth's orbit, the Empire's fleet remained calm. Commander Tavarin, who led the occupation, reported back to the Galactic Council. "The humans show resistance, but it is uncoordinated. They will soon accept reality." His voice was sharp, his tone confident. Yet even as he spoke, something unsettled him. He had studied human history. He knew their species had survived ice ages, plagues, and wars that would have destroyed weaker civilizations. And now he had taken their children. A quiet part of his mind whispered that this might have been a mistake. Back on Earth, small victories began to ripple across the land. Parents struck in the night, cutting off supplies meant for Imperial camps. Drones hacked by Alara flew into enemy lines, delivering chaos. Farmers turned their tractors into armored vehicles. Hunters from the forests used knowledge of the land to outmaneuver patrols. What the Empire had dismissed as primitive tactics became deadly traps. But it was not just weapons that gave humans strength, was memory. Around campfires, parents told stories of their children, each voice fueling the fire inside the group. One mother spoke of her daughter's laughter, another of her son's courage. These stories reminded them what they were fighting for and why they could not stop. Hayes listened to every word, storing it inside him like armor. He knew they were not only fighting the Empire, they were fighting against despair itself. Then came the moment they had waited for. A signal faint, almost hidden, crackled through. Elair's hacked system. It was not from the Empire. It was from the children. A boy's trembling voice came through, distorted but clear enough. "We are alive. We are scared. But we believe in you. Please don't stop." The room broke. Mothers cried openly. Fathers gripped their weapons tighter. Hayes closed his eyes and let the tears fall for the first time in months. That voice was proof. Proof that their children still held on. Proof that the Empire had not won. The parents rose as one, their pain transformed into fire. Hayes looked at them and spoke quietly, but every word carried like thunder. "They wanted us weak. They wanted us broken. But now they have given us something they can never take back. Hope. And with hope, we will tear their empire apart." In the shadows of Earth, a rebellion was no longer forming, it was alive. And the Empire, far above, was still blind to the storm that was coming for them. This part shifts from grief to active rebellion, introduces hope through the children's signal, and builds suspense for the counterattack. The Galactic Empire thought they had silenced Earth. Their broadcasts declared that humans were crushed, their resistance broken. But what they did not see was the quiet fire that grew stronger with every child taken. Mothers and fathers who once cried now sharpened their grief into weapons. Families who once mourned began to train. Entire towns became hidden camps, learning. From the veterans who had once fought wars on Earth, humanity was not waiting anymore. They were preparing in the shadows of old cities. Lights glowed in secret bunkers. Underground, fathers who once worked as engineers built strange machines, using scraps of alien tech scavenged from wreckage. Mothers who once healed their children now studied medicine far beyond their training, learning how to fight alien poisons and wounds. Farmers who once tilled the soil now stored food for armies. Children themselves whispered songs of courage, each line filled with a promise: "We will come back." The Empire did not believe in family bonds. To them, blood ties were weak, distractions from duty to the state. That blindness became their greatest mistake. Humans were bound not only by blood, but by something deeper: love and memory. Every stolen child became a beacon that united villages, cities, nations. Rivalries faded. Old grudges fell silent. Humanity had one goal now, one fire burning in every chest: bring the children back, far above. In the cold halls of an Imperial starship, alien officers laughed at intercepted transmissions from Earth. "They cry like animals," one said. Another sneered. "They make threats, but they are too weak to act." But what they did not know was that those weak cries were messages coded in grief, carrying secret plans between human groups. Every tear, every broken voice carried numbers, routes, signals. What looked like mourning was war being whispered. One night, in a mountain stronghold hidden from Imperial scanners, the parents gathered. Soldiers, engineers, farmers, doctors all stood together. At the center was a mother, her hands shaking as she placed a small toy on the table, the last gift from her stolen child. Her voice trembled, but her words carried steel. They thought they could take our children and leave us broken, But they forgot one truth. When you take a child, you do not create silence. You create warriors. The room erupted with voices. Maps were spread, alien routes traced, weak points marked. Ships were being built in caves, engines hidden under waterfalls. For the first time in history, humanity was no longer divided by borders. Every country, every people, every parent was now one family. And that family had declared war on the Empire. Meanwhile, aboard the Imperial stations, strange reports began to appear. Alien patrols found their supply lines disrupted. Cargo ships vanished into empty space. Starports that once fed the Empire's fleets were burning ruins by morning. And always, carved into the wreckage, one symbol appeared. A hand, small and childlike, etched with fire. It was the message of Earth. You took our children, we are coming. Some Imperial officers started to grow uneasy. One whispered, "They do not fight like others. They do not stop." But their commanders silenced them with threats. They still did not understand. They thought humans were just fragile creatures clinging to a dying planet. They never understood. What happens when you wound a parent's heart? Back on Earth, the families trained with a focus the galaxy had never seen. Old men passed down knowledge of survival, teaching how to live with nothing, how to fight with bare hands if needed. Mothers led squads in drills, every step carrying the rhythm of love turned into fury. And in the night skies, human ships slowly took form, strange but powerful, fueled by rage and unity. The children, far away in alien academies, whispered too. They held each other close, telling stories of their parents' courage. Though trapped, they believed. And one night, when stars shifted and a faint coded message slipped through the Empire's net, the children heard it. "We are coming." They cried, but this time with hope. The Empire still slept in arrogance, blind to what was rising below. But Earth was no longer a world in pain. It was a world of parents sharpening their grief into a blade. And soon, that blade would cut through the heart of the Empire. The day of reckoning arrived. The skies above Earth glowed as the Galactic Empire's fleet formed a circle around the planet. It was not a secret strike anymore. It was a show of power. The alien admiral declared across every channel, "This world has resisted long enough. Humanity's defiance ends today." They thought the humans would tremble, surrender, or beg. Instead, what came back was silence, and then a single voice from Earth's broadcast. "You took our children. You wanted to teach us fear. But you only reminded us why we fight." The aliens did not expect what followed. Across Earth, millions of parents stood together, from soldiers to farmers, from scientists to artists. They carried weapons, yes, but more than that, they carried resolve. The parents had shared their strategies, their hidden technologies, and even ancient survival tricks from every culture. When the Empire descended, they did not face a broken species. They faced humanity united like never before. The first clash came near orbit. Alien ships fired their beams, expecting quick destruction. But human engineers had prepared a surprise. Satellites launched sudden pulses that blinded alien targeting systems. Homemade drones swarmed through space, carrying explosives crafted in secret bunkers. Even old Earth rockets, thought to be relics of history, were repurposed into weapons. The aliens were stunned. They had expected fear. They received fire, but the real strength was not just in weapons. It was in how humans fought. The parents fought with emotion that the aliens could not comprehend. They fought not for territory, not for power, but for their children. Each battle cry carried the weight of love. Each strike carried the memory of faces taken from them. Aliens, bred to obey orders without emotion, faltered when they saw enemies who refused to surrender even when outnumbered. On the ground, Mothers and fathers turned every city into a fortress. Roads became traps, skies filled with resistance fighters. And every captured child gave the humans more courage. The Empire realized too late that they had awakened something ancient, the survival instinct of a species that had lived through ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters. Humanity had survived everything the universe had thrown before, and now they would survive this. The final blow came when human forces stormed the Empire's mothership. It was not generals who led that charge. It was parents, ordinary people with extraordinary courage. They carried photographs of their children tucked into their armor, reminders of why they could not fail. Inside the ship, they fought hall after hall until they reached the chambers where the children were kept. The reunion was fierce, filled with tears and shaking voices. But the fight was not over. The alien admiral confronted them, sneering, "You are fragile. You cannot lead this galaxy." One father, battered and bleeding, looked him in the eye and said, "We are fragile, yes, but it is because we break that we learn how to rise. That is something you will never understand." With those words, he and the others brought the admiral down, ending the Empire's hold over Earth. When the battle was finally over, the children stepped onto the soil of Earth once more, holding the hands of their parents. The world had scars. The sky still smoked with wreckage, but there was laughter among tears. Humanity had done the impossible. They had faced a galactic empire and stood tall, not because they were stronger or faster, but because they were human. The message spread across the stars. Other species watched, some with fear, others with respect. They whispered a truth the Empire had tried to hide. Never underestimate Earth. Never take their children. Never challenge the love that fuels them. As night fell, parents hugged their children tighter. Humanity was not the strongest species in the galaxy, but it was the one most willing to fight for what mattered. And in that, they were invincible.